feminist right now, it's a nationalist feminist.
No, I call myself a
Oh,
factarian.
I need I'm so sorry.
I call myself a factarian
And a
who
truth
does
bringer.
not believe in any ism. One of my most famous essays is why I do not call myself feminist or any ist. So no ist will do.
Right. But Ghazala, I think you'll be quite happy to be called anything. Great. In this session, I want to do something a little different. I want to ask each of you to make an opening statement, and then we'll get into the conversation so that we know exactly who believes in what and who stands for what. Madhu, would you like to go first? Since Madhu has been editing, I think, the longest running magazine, since 1978, which is quite remarkable. Doesn't matter. Yeah, that's everyone's digital now. Sorry? Okay, so Ghazala, would you like to go first?
Whatever, it's fine.
Sure, Ghazala, maybe you, yeah.
Okay.
Sure, you can. You can. Let Ghazala speak and then you can go next, yeah.
Okay. So, just to get over the formality, thank you so much for inviting me here. And I'm very, very pleased to be talking on the subject which of late has become very important and close to my heart. You have fashioned this discussion as a debate. And I think there should not be any debate on the subject. It should be very obvious what the right position on the subject is. From my perspective, I look at it in two ways. One way is the constitutional way, and that is India being a secular country, no organization, no institution should be condoned, or no institution should tell anybody not to flaunt their religious identity in public. It is everybody's right. The Constitution guarantees that right. The other part which I feel is it devolves on the state, on the government. And there I call upon the generosity and kindness of the government. We know all statistics show that Muslim women are amongst the least powerful members of the community. School dropout rate is the highest. There's very little number in the workforce. And one of the reasons for this, apart from the religious factors and the conservatism, one of the reasons for this is that they are not allowed to venture out by their parents, especially their fathers, without a hijab. So that's a separate issue, the patriarchy and how the mullahs and the ulamas have been manipulating the community in forcing certain diktats on women. I'm happy to talk about that subsequently. So that is an established fact that is the nature of the community, not just in India, but worldwide. We see what is happening in Iran. So there is an imposition on women that they have to be look a certain kind before they step out of their homes. Given this, the state can show a little magnanimity, can do a little bit of hand-holding in ensuring that this factor doesn't stop them from accessing education or accessing the workforce. So from my perspective, there are these two broad areas in which we should view the whole hijab debate in India. Thank you.
Wonderful. Madhu? Sure.
आपकी इजाज़त हो तो मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगी, अंग्रेज़ी में नहीं। मुझे आज तक समझ नहीं आया कि मुस्लिम महिलाएं हिजाब पहने या ना पहने, निकाब ओढ़ें या न ओढ़ें, इन मज़हबी मसलों पर भारत की सेक्युलर अदालतें सालों साल अपना कीमती समय क्यों बर्बाद करती हैं, और भारत की सेक्युलर सरकार मुस्लिम औरतों को इस्लाम के तौर तरीक़ों से आज़ादी दिलवाने के लिए क्यों इतनी बेचैन है। मुस्लिम औरतों से तो पुलिस और आर्मी तक भयभीत रहती है, ऐसी गज़ब की पत्थरबाजी करती हैं कि फ़ौजी अफसर भी इनके आगे हथियार टेक देते हैं। ऐसी सशक्त और लड़ाकू औरतों को मोदी सरकार या किसी अन्य पार्टी की सिंपैथी या मदद की कोई आवश्यकता नहीं है। वो अपने हकों की लड़ाई खुद लड़ सकते। दूसरी ओर ये बात भी मेरे हलक से नहीं उतरती कि इस्लामी संगठन और नेता एक तरफ तो खुल के ऐलान करते रहते हैं कि उनके लिए शरिया सर्वोपरि है। देश का संविधान या कानून भले ही उन पर कितनी भी नियामतें बख्श दे, वे केवल शरिया को ही अहम दर्जा देंगे। तो ये साहिबान शरिया लागू करवाने सेक्युलर कोर्ट्स में क्यों जाते हैं? वहाँ पर बैठे मैकॉले पुत्र और काफिर जज तो इस्लाम के स्कॉलर हैं नहीं, मुल्ला मौलवी वाला इल्म रखते नहीं। ऐसे काफिरों से मुस्लिम लीडर इस्लामिक पर्सनल लॉ की सर्टिफिकेशन क्यों मांगते हैं? सेक्युलर अदालतों के काफिर जज इस बात का सही फैसला कैसे कर सकते हैं कि हिजाब, बुर्का, निकाब, ट्रिपल तलाक, हलाला इत्यादि इस्लाम की इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिसेस हैं कि नहीं? क्या इसलिए सेक्युलर कोर्ट्स को हॉस्टेजेस बनाया जाता है क्योंकि इस्लामी मुल्ला मौलवी या ऑल इंडिया मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड भी इतने दशकों में ये तय नहीं कर पाए कि मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ है क्या भला? इस फरेब का एक ही इलाज है कि सरकार कानूनन मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड को बाध्य करे कि 1 महीने के अंदर मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ की सर्टिफाइड कॉपी एक डेडिकेटेड वेबसाइट पर पोस्ट कर दी जाए ताकि इस मुद्दे पर देश में स्पष्टता आए। एक तो पता नहीं मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ है क्या, और दूसरा उसके ऊपर आए दिन फसाद लेके कोर्टों में पहुंच जाते हैं। और अगर फिर भी स्पष्ट नहीं करते तो मतलब साफ है कि आए दिन पर्सनल लॉ की आड़ लेकर देश में फसाद का माहौल बनाए रखना है। ये तो मुझ जैसे मूर्ख हिंदू भी जान गए कि हिजाब या निकाब इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिसेस हों या ना हों, परंतु काफिरों से बेइंतहा नफ़रत करना ये ज़रूर इस्लाम की इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिस रही है। सबसे ज़्यादा इसेंशियल मैंडेट है सारी दुनिया पर इस्लाम की हुकूमत स्थापित करना, और उसके लिए हर गैर इस्लामी मुल्क के काफिरों का जबरन धर्मांतरण कर उन्हें इस्लाम कबूल करवाना। पीएफआई ने तो खुला ऐलान कर भी दिया है कि सन 2047 तक मिशन गज़वा हिंद के तहत पूरे भारत के इस्लामीकरण की तैयारी हो चुकी है। ये भी इस्लाम का इसेंशियल डॉक्ट्रिन है कि जब तक काफिरों के मुल्कों में जिन्हें इस्लाम दरअल हर्ब का दर्जा देता है, जब तक वो दरअल इस्लाम न स्थापित हो जाए तब तक हर वक्त जायज़ नाजायज़ उल जलूल मुद्दों को लेकर काफिर समाज पर धावा बोलते रहो, काफिरों की सरकारों के नाक में दम करते रहो, दंगे फसाद का माहौल बनाते रहो। आज हिजाब पे फसाद, कल सीए जैसे मासूम झल्ले से कानून को लेकर फेक नैरेटिव चलाकर खून की नदियां बहाने तक की तैयारी थी। इन सारे फसादों से निपटने का एक ही तरीका है कि भारत सरकार मुस्लिम समुदाय को पीसमील शरिया मांगने पर मजबूर न करे, अपितु बाकायदा फुल शरिया लागू करने का ठोस इंतज़ाम किया जाए जो केवल मुसलमानों पर लागू होगा, काफिरों पर नहीं। उदाहरण के लिए, अब जब कह रहे हैं कि हिजाब इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिस है और हाई कोर्ट में, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिस कह के उसको डिफेंड किया जा रहा है, तो मुस्लिम समुदाय की अगर शरिया पूरी तरह लागू होगा तो फिर जाहिर है इनको ये छुटका क्यों मांगते हैं, पूरा लीजिए ना शरिया। तो किसी भी महिला को, मुस्लिम महिला को हिजाब बुर्का पहने बगैर घर से निकलने की इजाज़त ना हो। ये कैसी इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिस हुई जो केवल कुछ ही मुस्लिम औरतों पर लागू होती है? शबाना आज़मी, सबा नकवी, राना यूब जो इनकी लीडरान हैं, क्या वो इस्लाम त्याग चुकी हैं जो इन पर इस्लामी इसेंशियल प्रैक्टिसेस लागू नहीं होती? जबकि ये सब हस्तियाँ फ्रीडम ऑफ चॉइस और रिलीजियस फ्रीडम का हवाला देकर हिजाब और अन्य कई उल जलूल डिमांड्स का समर्थन करती आई हैं। इन मोहतरमाओं को क्या ये नहीं मालूम कि इस्लाम में फ्रीडम ऑफ चॉइस का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं है। इस्लाम में एंट्री ज़्यादातर तलवार या बंदूक की नोक से या प्रलोभन देकर होती रही, और एग्ज़िट का तो कोई रास्ता ही नहीं, सिर्फ सर तन से जुदा। और जब शरिया के हुक्म तले रहना ही है और उसके लिए आए दिन लड़ाई करनी है, तो हिजाब निकाब तक बात नहीं रुक सकती। शरिया मानने वालों को काफिरों द्वारा तैयार किया पाठ्यक्रम क्यों पढ़ाया जाए? काफिरों द्वारा मान्यता प्राप्त सेक्युलर डिग्रियां मोमिनों पर क्यों थोपी जाएं? ये तो उनके ईमान को भ्रष्ट करती हैं। मोमिनों और काफिरों का एक साथ पढ़ने और साथ नौकरियां करने पर भी पाबंदी लगनी चाहिए, क्योंकि काफिरों के कल्चर से इस्लाम को सख्त नफ़रत है और ख़तरा भी। इसीलिए मैं मानती हूँ AMU, जामिया जैसी मुस्लिम संस्थाओं से भी हिंदुओं को बाहर निकाला जाए और इन्हें पूरी तरह शरिया कंप्लायंट बनाइए। मोमिनों के लिए बिल्कुल अलग शरिया अप्रूव्ड स्कूल्स, कॉलेजेस होने चाहिए। ये हिजाब में ही सारा शरिया आ जाता है। गाना बजाना, स्पोर्ट्स, नृत्य, संगीत, TV और बॉलीवुड इत्यादि काफिराना हरकतें, ये सब काफिराना हरकतें मोमिनों के लिए टोटल बैन होनी चाहिए। इस सेपरेशन से मोमिन तो भ्रष्ट होने से बचेंगे ही, परंतु हिंदू परिवारों के बच्चे भी सुरक्षित हो जाएंगे। हिंदू लड़कियां मोमिनों के साथ घुलने मिलने की वजह से निरंतर चल रहे वूम जिहाद की शिकार होने से बचेंगी, और हिंदू लड़के मुस्लिम लड़की से किसी हिंदू लड़के का इश्क करने, मोहब्बत या शादी करने का अंजाम उससे बचेंगे, क्योंकि उसका अंजाम एक ही है कि अगर कोई हिंदू लड़का मुस्लिम लड़की से शादी कर लेता है, प्यार हो जाता है, तो एक ही उसकी सज़ा है इस्लाम में, गला रेत के हत्या, और वो भी बेरहमी से टॉर्चर के बाद। इसीलिए तो मुस्लिम लड़कियों को हिजाब, निकाब, बुर्के में ढक कर रखा जाता है, ताकि कोई काफिर पुरुष उनके पास फटकने की हिम्मत ही न करे। यही मुख्य दलील, ये मैं नहीं कह रही हूँ, यही मुख्य दलील हिजाब का पक्ष रखने वाले मोमिन वकील ने अदालत में दी है। और मेरा मानना है हिंदुओं को इशारा समझना चाहिए। मुस्लिम लड़कियों का हिजाब, बुर्के व निकाब में रहना हिंदू समाज की सुरक्षा के लिए भी बहुत ज़रूरी हो गया है। धन्यवाद।
Ghazala, I think, would you like to respond to that? Because in a way, what Madhuji has said is in a very indirect way actually reinforcing what you say. Because what you say is that this is a result of the Muslim patriarchy, that women have to pay the price. Women always have to pay the price of the patriarchy in any religion. But in a very indirect and convoluted way.
I did not get that. This is what she was saying. So I really don't know where I can start to respond. Responding to something like this.
Let's
why
stick
don't
to,
you ask me if you a specific question?
Let's stick to the hijab question, because I think Madhu's sweep is quite totalitarian.
So, if you want to talk about the issue which emerged in Karnataka, you want me to start with that?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Now, let me start from the beginning. In India, anybody can wear his or her religious identity, and I'm not talking of Sikhs, where it is determined by the religion itself,
Right.
that they have to wear a turban and a kada and a kanga and other things. But take a small example. Take the example of a kalawa. Now, no institution forbids you from coming to work or coming to school or college wearing a kalawa. When that is acceptable, then why is it another form of religious flaunting suddenly not acceptable? That was point number one. The other point that I want to make here is that unless it is specified by an institution. A uniform is specified by an institution. For instance, I went to a convent school until class 8, and my uniform stipulated that my skirt should be 2 inches above my knees. And my mother did not like that idea, so I used to wear a longer skirt, almost 4 inches below my knees, and I was always hauled up by the nuns and pulled out of the assembly. So I used to fold the skirt around the waist to pull it up 2 inches above my knees, keeping my mother and the nuns happy. The point I'm making is, because the institution itself said that this is how your uniform should be, my mother had no business on insisting that my skirt should be longer. She should have pulled me out of the school and sent me to some other school. But that did not happen, so I made a small compromise, and I went to the school pulling up my skirt. So unless the uniform is specified, and which is usually the case in schools, in any other public space, if a woman is appearing in a hijab or unless it's full face covering, then that is objectionable. But if she's covering her head, or if she's wearing a headscarf, why should anybody object to that? And if you have not been objecting to it for a while, as the videos emerged from colleges where university teachers, professors were asked to take off their headscarf. Now, teachers have no uniform. And if they've been coming to a particular institution teaching for the last few years, wearing that head cover, why are you suddenly doing it? Which obviously means that there was something else happening there, and not just imposition of a particular dress code. Something else was not just happening on the side of the state, something else was happening on the side of the Muslim women who were protesting, and I have written about this, that this organization, the Campus Front of India, they were trying to meddle in the students' politics of that particular region, countering ABVP, and that is how they politicized the issue. They backed up the girls on the wrong issue, and basically they were firing from the shoulders of the weakest among their own community, which was completely disgusting. But having said that, I feel that no organization or no institution should be telling any woman, it's not just Muslim women, any woman what they should wear. And I think that is what your subject is, that who decides who wears what. I think women should have the agency and, to decide what they want to wear, as long as it's within the boundaries of decency stipulated that by that particular organization, institution, or society. So beyond that, I don't think anybody should have a right or a position to say anything. Now, as far as talking of hijab being an essential practice of Islam, and the court case which says that it is an essential practice of Islam, incidentally, that lawyer is not a Muslim who has made this case, but the main lawyer is not a Muslim. The guy who has framed the petition is not a Muslim. And as far as I know, he was advised not to bring in this clause, because hijab is not an essential practice of Islam. Islam, in fact, lays down no uniform on anybody. There is no particular appearance for any Muslim man or a woman stipulated in Islam. You can wear anything. The focus is on modesty and aankh ki sharam. If you should lower your eyes. That the focus is on that. So that is the reason you find Muslim men and women wearing all kinds of clothes within the boundaries of decency. I don't know what else to say, unless you ask me something.
No, let Madhu respond to this, and then we'll take that forward. Madhu, what do you think? Because what you're advocating is a completely separate entity for Muslims, which is, I mean, we're in independent India, 75 years have passed.
Let's not flaunt that, because in
Why not? Isn't that something we should be proud of, our diversity?
I'm not one bit proud of the India I'm living in today.
What upsets you?
As a child, I really was starry-eyed. I'm post-independence generation, and I'm appalled at the way things are sliding down, and we are actually heading towards many more breakups of India. द एटमॉस्फेयर दैट क्रिएटेड पाकिस्तान, अभी खुल के कहते हैं भारत तेरे टुकड़े होंगे इंशाल्लाह इंशाल्लाह। और ये सिर्फ नारा नहीं है जो JNU में लगा, ये एक्चुअली PFI ने खुलेआम कह दिया है। उनका नक्शा तैयार है, मुगलिस्तान का नक्शा, दलितिस्तान का नक्शा, और तोड़ने का कितने टुकड़े होने हैं, कहाँ से होने हैं। चिकन नेक वो करने वाले थे, असम का तोड़ने वाले थे ताकि नॉर्थ ईस्ट को अलग कर दिया जाए वगैरह वगैरह। और ये सही डेंजर्स हैं। अब कितना रीज़नेबल लगता है कि अगर कोई हिजाब पहन ले, वो पहन ले, स्कार्फ सा पहन ले, तो क्या आपत्ति हो सकती है? बिल्कुल नहीं हो सकती। परंतु दैट्स नॉट इट। आज हिजाब है, कल बुर्का है, परसों निकाब है, वो भी मैं कहूँ कोई बात नहीं, जो मर्ज़ी पहनो, ना भी पहनो, आप अपने को छुपा के रखना चाहते हो, बट देन डोंट फोर्स मी टू डील विद यू, डोंट एक्सपेक्ट दैट आई विल एम्प्लॉय यू इफ़ यू थिंक योर फेस इज़ नॉट इवन वर्थ लुकिंग एट, दैट आई कांट इवन हैव facial recognition with you, then obviously you will not be taken seriously. But that apart, the main point that I'm trying to make is this. Look at the facade that was created over Citizen Amendment Act. Citizen Amendment Act में था क्या? केवल इतना कि जो 35,000 बेचारे हिंदू बांग्लादेश या पाकिस्तान से परसिक्यूट होके बहुत बुरे हालात में जिनको यहाँ आना पड़ा है, परसिक्यूट, आए दिन उनकी लड़कियाँ उठाई जाती हैं, आए दिन फोर्स्ड कन्वर्जन होती है, आए दिन उनकी प्रॉपर्टी छीन ली जाती है, आए दिन मर्डर्स हो रहे हैं, आए दिन मंदिर टूट रहे हैं, ये सब हो रहा है। वो बेचारे 35,000 जो आए हैं, केवल उनके लिए सिटीजनशिप देने की बात थी। और ये भी कह दिया नहीं नहीं हम पारसियों को भी देंगे, क्रिश्चियंस को भी देंगे, ताकि शांत रहें लोग। उसके ऊपर खून की नदियाँ बहाने वाला इतना बड़ा एजिटेशन कर दिया, सारे देश को पैरालाइज करने का। क्या था उसमें? कहते हैं मुसलमानों को भी आने दो, फिर सारा पाकिस्तान यहीं आ जाए ना। ये कोई बात थी? It was so unfair to even oppose it. In fact, असली डिमांड होनी चाहिए थी कि सिटीजन अमेंडमेंट एक्ट के तहत, क्योंकि हिंदुओं के लिए केवल एक भारत ही है जहाँ वो आ सकते हैं, जहाँ भी परसिक्यूट हो रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान में, बांग्लादेश में, जहाँ पे भी, अब तो बंगाल में भी होना शुरू हो गया, केरला में भी ऐसे डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं जहाँ से भाग रहे हैं, वहाँ से वो आ सकें भारत के अंदर, और ये ना हो कि उनके पास कोई जगह नहीं है। इसके लिए फसाद कि ये तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल इक्वालिटी के खिलाफ जाता है। सो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज दीज आर फेक इश्यूज। हिजाब इज अ फेक इशू, and so was anti-CI and every single issue that is raised, including triple talaq. कभी कहेंगे आप कह रही हैं कोई मैंडेटरी नहीं है ड्रेस कोड, तो फिर इतना फसाद क्यों है?
But Madhuji, that is the point. The point is that you may think that these are fake narratives, but they have real impact.
Oh no, they don't. These same girls were found in flaunting jeans in cafeterias. There are videos of them.
But the point is that they do get deprived of education in multicultural and multi-ethnic communities.
But they don't want multiculturalism. Multiculturalism में आप दूसरों को काफिर समझ के वाजिब कत्ल नहीं समझ सकते. The whole doctrine is that I, as a kafir, I am wajib qatl, that I have to be decimated. That is mission Ghazwa Hind. और ये इनका डॉक्ट्रिन सिर्फ पाकिस्तान से नहीं आ रहा, ये ग्लोबल है। ये जो इनकी बड़ी बड़ी इस्लामिक स्कॉलर्स वाली देवबंद वगैरह, उनकी पूरी तैयारी है कि ग्लोबल पावर इस्लाम को बननी है, हर, एंड दैट्स द इस्लामिक मैंडेट, कि दुनिया का हर हिस्से में इस्लाम इस्टेब्लिश होना है। और इस्लाम इस्टेब्लिश का मतलब सबका धर्मांतरण करना है। सबका धर्मांतरण तो फिर कोई सब मर्जी से तो मुसलमान बनने वाले नहीं हैं, तो इसका मतलब जेनोसाइड होगी, जैसी कि हुई मुगलों के दौरान।
And women will have to continue to pay the price.
But women, I mean, Muslim women, they have to fight their own battles. If I interfere, I am accused of all kinds of things.
What about the constitution?
What constitution? They don't want constitutional rights.
They
want personal law. Personal law is against constitution. Personal law में equality की कोई जगह ही नहीं है। आप सोचते हैं कि instant ट्रिपल तलाक और हलाला और ऐसी जैसी जो हरकतें हैं, इस्लाम जो मैंडेट समझते हैं अपना, तो वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट्स मिल सकते हैं उसके अंदर स्त्रियों को। If they want that, how can they have constitutional protection? And if they don't want constitutional protection, when it comes to the most brazen and nasty anti-women practices, तो अभी हिजाब को लेके इनको चाहिए प्रोटेक्शन कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कहता है. जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को आप मानते ही नहीं, इस्लाम का ये हुक्म है और ये सब इनके लीडर कहते हैं. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऐसी तैसी, हमारे लिए इस्लाम और शरिया ऊपर है.
Ghazala, may I ask you to
शरिया
respond
ऊपर
to
है,
that?
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन डज नॉट मैटर.
You know, I actually didn't realize that the subject here would be Islam and
Yes.
propaganda against Islam. I will like to take 2 minutes and
Please.
I'm sorry plugging my book.
But it must be read by everyone. I can
my
re-plug
book,
it. for you.
and the reason why it has been given 2 awards last year. It won 2 awards, and now it is long-listed for the 3rd one, Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay Award. I am plugging my book primarily because one of the reasons why I chose to write the book, though my background is in defense journalism, I'm a defense journalist, I edit a magazine on defense, national security and defense. Islam has been my religion, but not my subject. But I chose to write this primarily because of the mind-blowing propaganda which happens, and I had never imagined that I would be sitting and listening to it right in live.
Quoting your leaders.
Look, no,
Please.
Now, can I just
Yeah.
talk? Now, first thing first, if Islam had been spread across the world by the power of sword and sword alone, then the entire country would have been Muslim by now. There was almost a 10-century long Muslim rule in India, though none of the leaders ruled by Islam. I spent the day today going around the city and beautiful temples all over. I asked the person who was showing me around that the rulers, the kings who built these temples, where are their palaces, where are their forts? So he said, no, but there are no forts and palaces here. Maybe in Puri there would be something, maybe in Cuttack, but we only have temples, and this is called Gupt Kashi because it has over 100,000 temples. You go in any part of India which has been a capital of any Muslim king, you will find remains of their forts, remains of their palaces. You will not find too many grand mosques. You have one huge grand mosque in Delhi, Jama Masjid. You have one grand mosque, Agra, which is my hometown, Jama Masjid, Moti Masjid. But you have huge remains of their forts and palaces, primarily not because they have survived. The temples have survived. I saw the Lingaraj temple, which is 1100 years old. It has survived. But if there was a palace or a fort also built by the king, surely something would have survived. My point is simple. All these Muslim rulers, right, starting from the Delhi Sultanate and the Bengal Sultanate, they ruled not because they were Muslims and they were imposing Sharia on the country. They were ruling as people who wanted to rule, who wanted power, political power. They were driven by political power, which is why they built evidences or citadels of power. They built, in Delhi, you have remains of Tughlaqabad, a huge fort. So they were building forts which could withstand attacks by enemies and all that. They were not occupied or preoccupied building grand mosques as evidence of their faith. Some mosques were built because mosques are essential for praying. Islam says that when you are praying, when men are praying, their ankles should rub one against one another. So you need huge space for large number of people to offer the prayer together, especially on Friday afternoons, which is Jummah ki namaz, and Eid and Bakrid. So mosques, if you see, most of them, they just have very basic structure and vast open ground where people can pray. So that settles that part.
Yeah, I
did
think
not
she can
interrupt.
speak. Yeah.
The other thing is, Sharia does not impinge upon the social life of any citizen of the country except the Muslims. The people who should object to Sharia or people who should have problems with Sharia or who benefit from Sharia are Muslims. Nobody else gets affected. So why should anybody else be bothered? If a man is divorcing his wife or marrying 4 times and ill-treating all of them or throwing them out, it's a Muslim man and a Muslim woman who's suffering. Why should anybody else be bothered? Sharia doesn't come into your in your criminal code. If a Muslim man kills somebody, he faces the law as any other person faces the law. If a Muslim woman kicks somebody, she faces the law just as any other woman in the country would face. So it's in the personal space. I'm not defending Sharia. And in any case, Sharia is basically in India, there is no law called Sharia. What you have is a Muslim personal law, which is derivative of Sharia. Now, there is no such thing as halala, which is constantly thrown around. There is no such thing as triple talaq in Sharia or in Islamic law. Halala is a very imaginative and ingenious Indian jugaad. And it is exclusive only to the Indian subcontinent. No other country in the world, not even Saudi Arabia, which is the god of Sunni Islam, practices that. Because it has nothing to do with Islam or the religion or the Quran or the Sharia. Similarly, triple talaq, there are 4 schools of Islamic jurisprudence. Only one school which is practiced in India, certain ulamas within that school have said triple talaq is valid. The Quran makes no mention of triple talaq. And in India also, a lot of surveys that have happened, I have quoted in my book, the percentage of Muslim women who get divorced as a consequence of triple talaq is less than 2%. The rest are divorced following the prescribed method of there being a gap of each menstrual cycle between the pronouncement of talaq, which makes it 3 months, sometimes a little more than 3 months. So that is the proper way of doing the talaq, and that is what most people follow. The third part that I just want to address is that Bharat Tere Tukde Honge, these slogans, no evidence has been found. Delhi police has actually produced no evidence that the video which they were showing as whether these slogans were raised, there is no evidence. It's all propaganda. That is one part. The other thing is PFI. PFI is, I have no idea, and honestly speaking, except for Hindu right-wing people, I have not heard anybody or any Muslim talk about PFI. I had no clue until it was banned that there was an organization called PFI which was threatening the unity of India and which was going to create a Dalistan and which was going to create a Mughalistan. I had no clue. I had never come across anybody, any organization called PFI. As far as Ghazwa-e-Hind is concerned, I want to narrate an anecdote. And this is from 2010. I was in Mao. I was visiting the various army institutions for a cover story that I was writing for my magazine. In the evening, one of the officers who was an instructor at one of the institutions, he invited me and my colleagues to his house for dinner. In the course of dinner, he came and he sat next to me, and he said, you know, in the daytime, you were talking about the biggest threat to India. You know what the biggest threat to India is and what we are worried about? I said, what is it? He said, that's Ghazwa-e-Hind. I said, what is that? He said, Google it. The internet is full of it. I said, okay. So I came back. I forgot about it. Because in my entire life, being a Muslim, a practicing Muslim, I had never heard of Ghazwa-e-Hind. I was not even aware that one Ghazwa-e-Hind is happening, and I'm so unprepared. I mean, I'm going to rule this country, and I'm so unprepared for that. So sorry about that. But subsequently, few years later, I was talking to a recently retired Home Secretary, and suddenly the word Ghazwa-e-Hind came to me, and I asked him, I said, when you were the Home Secretary, did you ever come across a term called Ghazwa-e-Hind? Did this ever come up in any meetings that this is India's biggest threat? He drew a complete blank. He said, I had no idea. What does it mean? I said, I don't know what it means. Then I Googled it, and I came up with a lot of material on Ghazwa-e-Hind, and this officer was right. The internet was full of it. Huge conspiracy theories. The army of the believers is going to march and defeat the Kafirs and rule over India, and then the army from the west will join in, the army from the east will join in, and there will be Muslim armies all over the world, and they'll come and capture India. And India will be converted into oh my God, I'm forgetting the term, from Darul Harb, it will become Darul Islam. It will become a Muslim country. So it is an internet trope. I came, then because I was interested in the subject, suddenly I did little more research all on Google, and I came across Hussein Haqqani's paper, which he had written for one of the US institutes, again on Ghazwa-e-Hind, and he cited a lot of jihadi sources from Al-Qaeda, also saying, oh, we have to start Ghazwa-e-Hind. So my point is, Ghazwa-e-Hind is a propaganda trope for extremists on both sides of the divide, for the Muslim extremists and as well as the Hindu extremists. Nobody in his or her right mind, nobody in the government of India, nobody who's making policies even takes it seriously. So rest assured, India is not becoming a Muslim country anytime soon.
I'll have to ask Madhu to respond to it. 2 minutes, Madhu, that's it. Because I had hoped that gender would trump religion in this case, but I'm sorry, it hasn't happened.
I don't understand how you expect me to trump gender versus religion when those on whose behalf you are holding this session bring it up all the time. मैं नहीं लाती हूँ, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में मैं नहीं जा रही हूँ इस्लाम का हवाला दे के, पर्सनल लॉ का हवाला दे के. नंबर 1, गज़ाला, आई थिंक इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट कि आप इस्लामिक डॉक्ट्रिन पढ़ें और कुछ नहीं तो
एक्सक्यूज मी, इस्लामिक डॉक्ट्रिन क्या चीज़ है?
ऑल राइट, 3 चीज़ें मानी जाती हैं. लाइफ ऑफ द पैगंबर, पीस बी अपॉन हिम, अली सिन्हा की किताब पढ़िए, अंडरस्टैंडिंग मोहम्मद एंड द मुस्लिम्स. दूसरा, आप हदीस और जो भी आपके माने जाते हैं शरिया का आधार जहाँ से आता है, you should be familiar. Today there are many serious lectures available on these issues, and luckily for us, even Hindus are beginning to try to understand Islam. Now the point that I would like to say is this: history of Islam is very bloody, and it's not me, but Will Durant said, and he is one of the leading authorities on history of civilizations, that the Islamic conquest and rule of India is the bloodiest chapter in the history of mankind. And the estimates vary from 500 million to 800 million Hindus slaughtered, and hundreds of thousands, lakhs of women, being Hindu women, being captured as sex slaves and sold not only in the markets in Lahore and Delhi, but also taken to Arab countries and sold there as sex slaves. तो मैं ये नहीं कह रही हूँ, इतिहास उन्होंने लिखा है, हिंदुओं ने तो लिखा ही नहीं वो सारा इतिहास. Now secondly, आप कह रहे हैं आपने कभी PFI सुना ही नहीं है, तो आप कहेंगी सिमी भी नहीं सुना. These are actually, they have a front. मेरे घर के पास है PFI का ऑफिस, और वो आए दिन टीवी पे होते हैं. PFI के जो leaders हैं, आए दिन they are on prime time TV, and you say you never heard of them, and they've been on prime time TV, Haqqani साहब वगैरह वगैरह, every single night. Secondly, these are also underground organizations which have been involved in terror activities. It's not my saying, these are globally known facts. और ये अभी जब बैन लगा है PFI पे, ऐसे नहीं लगा कि मधु किश्वर ने सोचा कि PFI डेंजरस है. It's taken guts of, and even now the crackdown is not serious enough. उनके ऑफिसेस अभी भी, दिल्ली का ऑफिस अभी भी खुला हुआ है. फिर आप कहती हैं कि मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ. अभी आप मुझे ये बताइए, आपको मालूम है कि जब शाह बानो का केस हुआ था तब मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ बोर्ड बना था, और उसका मैंडेट था कि शरिया के अनुसार मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ क्या है वो बताएंगे, ताकि आए दिन झगड़ा ना हो जैसे शाहबानो के समय हुआ, और सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट को ओवरटर्न करना पड़ा बिकॉज दंगे शुरू हो गए, माहौल बहुत बिगड़ गया था. और आज तक उन्होंने नहीं किया. इट शुड बी, यू शुड डिमांड ऑफ देम कि जब आप मुस्लिम पर्सनल लॉ की बात करती हैं तो बताइए ना, है कि आप कह रही हलाला होता नहीं. I know at least 50 victims of halala practice personally. So if you say, and I'm not a Muslim. Triple talaq आप कहते हैं वो भी it's not mandatory. कितनी चीज़ें हैं, polygamy, ability to not only have 4 wives but any number of relationships even outside marriage. ये सब अगर नहीं आपने सुने तो प्लीज़ सुनिए, देवबंद को उसका लिटरेचर पढ़िए. अभी कुछ ही दिन पहले मैंने ओपन लेटर लिखी थी देवबंद का लिटरेचर साइट करते हुए कि जिस तरह की ये बातें पढ़ा रहे हैं, जिस तरह जामिया और AMU का सिलेबस भी गज़वा हिंद की सीख पढ़ा रहा है, बड़े बड़े स्कॉलर्स रहे हैं. These are part of curriculum even in AMU, Jamia, etc. And you're saying you haven't heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, then it's time that you inform yourself, and let's not have this, phony goody-goody version of Islam which doesn't exist in the world we live in. And that's about what I would like to say. Thank you.
On that note, I think we'll have to call it a day because we've clearly agreed to disagree or disagreed to disagree. So, no questions. I'm terribly sorry because we're absolutely out of time. Okay, but you have to make it very brief, no comment. No comment, just a quick question. I'm absolutely out of time.
No,
My next guest.
No, first I am thankful to moderator ma'am that you raised the constitution issue. A debate cannot go by whims and caprices of the speaker. It has to be on the rules and regulations of the constitution. 2 cases, very important. Karnataka High Court case going on 2022 for banning this hijab, and Kerala High Court's case of 2016 clearly says that right to conscience must be given, and this is not only right to protect the religion. Hijab is also attached with right to conscience.
What is
And
your
about-
question, please?
Yes, ma'am, because she said that no constitution says about this.
Madhuji, would you like to
Constitution
take
says
that
about
question?
right to conscience. Article 15, ma'am. Article 21, right to conscience. And second about that Islam.
You have not understood what I said.
No,
What you're saying doesn't relate to what I'm talking
No,
about.
it's directly related, ma'am.
On that
ma'am.
note,
And second-
on that note, thank you.
Second, ma'am, you said about that Islamization of India. Quran doesn't say, I am a Hindu, but I have read also Quran. Quran says if injustice is being done on any individual, you please raise a revolution against it. They don't say that you make the whole world Islam.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you've made your point. Madhuji has made her point. So has Ghazala.
Questions you raised at the end, which require a whole session, and you're really, I'm sorry, taking it on a track which requires half a day at least, because your interpretation of the Constitution and Islam nowhere stand the test of that.
We'll have to call it a day. Thank you very much. Please, can we end
yeah,
this? Yeah.
Yes, we'll have to end with acceptance.